Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. A good evening if you are where Fran and Thom are. My name is Jack Holder. I am the creator of Arcane Industries and the editor for the Great Commandment Comics Anthology. And we have a great interview from across the pond. That is the last time that you're going to hear me attempt an accent today. Francesca and Thom have graciously given up some of their weekend to talk about their contribution to the Great Commandment Comics Anthology. We're talking about their work, the collaborative process, and what it means to really delve into fables. If you have any questions or comments, please do so down below. Share this video, and I hope you have a great time because we are going to hopefully be giving one to you right now. So let's dive right on into this. What is the Great Commandment? What am I talking about? What is a comic? Well, every day we seem to have commands hurled at us and within us. Commands like love your neighbor as yourself. We the people in order to form a more perfect union. Those grandiose commands, but we also get those like go to your room, actually do the dishes, get the bins in, to the expansive fun ones like live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other and party on, dudes. But just as important as those commands are, just as important is our response. Yeah, but what does it all mean? What does it mean to love each other as ourselves, to prosper, to be excellent? Well, that's the question that we, with the Great Commandment Anthology, asked. And over 24 creative teams responded. This comics anthology has over 150 pages of comics answering that very question, with samurai Akitas to Taoist hippos to fables about the dark woods, extending all the way up to the gates of Valhalla to the atrocities at the southern U.S. border. And we do it with some of the best artists in the world, with a New York Times bestselling author, a USA Today bestselling author, and me. And just even more important, especially today, with Francesca and Thom. They are the creative team behind Do Not Go Into the Dark Woods, a fascinating romp and digression into delving deep into the woods outside of town and seeing the monsters for who they really are. Speaking of who they really are, let's get into these creators because apparently this is their first published work. They were willing to give someone like me a chance with their first work. So let's see who they are. Let's talk about it. Francesca, please talk about who you are, writing and art credits, and what is going on with you and Thom.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Jack, for taking a chance with us. I think it feels like it's more like that way around rather than us giving you the chance. So, thank you. And so, I guess if for people listening, my accent is probably giving it away that I'm not from the UK. I'm not from the US. I'm from the northern Italy, around Venice. So I guess if I'm saying something that doesn't make sense, might be because of the accent, might be because of my brain. And so I actually learned to read on comic books. My parents used to buy me this magazine that had lots of little comic serialized stories. So I think comics have been in my life forever. You can see that the backdrop of our conversation. And as I grew up, I basically just kept on drawing all the time. But I'm as as you grow up and you face the real world, I decided to end up specializing in graphic design. So I still kept into like a creative field, visual field, and so for a few years I stopped drawing, right? But then that wasn't working very well for me because drawing has always been a release. Whenever I get too stressed or think about unsettling stuff, then drawing would always be a great way for me to express and articulate and let go. So as I started working at graphic design agencies in London, and I wasn't drawing anymore, the stress was building up quite a lot. So Thom and I were in together at that point. And I think we were was like, Thom, I think I'd draw more if I had somebody that would tell me to draw, or there was a goal for me. So let's draw comics together. And I think that was quite a few years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, that'll be
well, 5 years ago. Yeah, 5 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So I think there was I respond very well to external set goals, let's say that. And I guess that was the way that we started working together.
So yeah, and unlike my darling wife, I'm not from Italy. I'm from Yorkshire originally, although we both now live near London. So although darling,
when have you ever said that?
Only sarcastically.
Yeah, that's true.
But no, I actually also learned to read using with comics. My grandmother had a large collection of Asterix comics, and for some reason, and for some reason that was the thing that got me actually excited about reading. And then I kind of went on to the kind of British children's comics like the Beano and the Dandy, which are light-hearted comedy things for the most part. And then, when I was in my teens, I discovered American comics before the movies started to get really big, so they were much harder to find back then. That wasn't a hipster thing. That was more
before it was cool. Sorry.
I've never been cool.
You've never been cool.
But I went to beyond that, I went to university to study classics, and eventually met Fran, and I've always been interested in storytelling, but I've never been able to write prose fiction particularly well because I am terrible at describing things. It all never quite worked out properly. And when Fran decided that she needed to draw more and asked if I could help her by writing stuff, it seemed perfect because in comics, I can just kind of say, and then something cool happens in the background, and you can figure out the details later. And it's been working well for us so far. So, and that pretty much brings us up to now when we finally managed to get something accepted for a publication.
Absolutely. I would say that this is definitely working out. Let's talk about your anthology piece, Do Not Go Into the Dark Woods. Now, when I described it, did I get anything wrong? Did I leave out any important bits? Talk a little bit about both what the comic is and how it really came about.
Okay, so the comic itself is the story of a couple of siblings in a drawing on the feel of old fairy tales for the kind of tone and atmosphere of it. But the two siblings forced to break the one rule of their community, where they're ordered to never go into the dark woods, but they have to because their dog has run away. Which clearly the most important motivation that one could have. I think the core element of it was I wanted to look into the idea of what kind of rules in a more fundamental sense of by the very nature of them. So Just trying to think what the best way to go forward on this one is.
I think that's more like, so when we saw the anthology open application, I had no idea what to do, but the theme seemed interesting for rules and regulations. And Thom came up with the story, and I was like, oh, we must do this, even if it's never going to get accepted, because it just talks about how rules are not absolute necessarily, and why that could be the case. And I myself, and I am a very black and white person. I'm working on that. So the fact that the story was not black and white was very appealing personally. And I'm really glad that they, saw it's been published and other people can see it, because I think that is something that's quite important. And I see myself and I see some of our friends that black and white thinking is not helpful for people to live a fulfilling life. So the more we can see the nuance of situations, I feel the more they can be happier.
Absolutely. And it very much in Do Not Go Into the Dark Woods, it really delves into the idea of nuance. It isn't going out saying these rules that everyone follows, not that they have always been bad and wrong. It very much is things change and evolve over time, and we have to keep our awareness of that and be open to such change. Would that be an accurate depiction?
Yeah, this is 100%.
I think, fundamentally, I always feel that the most important thing about rules is that they're always made with an intention. There's always a purpose behind them, and often that purpose is a good one at the time it's made. But things can change, like circumstances change, and unthinking adherence to an old rule can actually lead to problems rather than actually helping solve things. And so ultimately, that's what the story is about saying it might be good, a rule might be good, but it does need to be continually tested in order to see if it's still valid.
Wonderful. I personally ascribe to that in all things. The best way to have faith in something is to constantly question, not in an attempt to prove something wrong, often in order to prove it right. What I particularly love about this story, sorry, Thom, it is Francesca's artwork.
I mean, she's the talent, so that makes sense.
I love that she's like, hey, time for me.
Yes.
Go away, Thom.
Oh, yeah, so glad.
Because the way that this is presented is very much like a folktale in and of itself, and diving into the very nature. The town is deep in the woods. It could be somewhere between the 14th and 19th centuries, and somewhere in the northern hemisphere. That is what where I took it. Could you talk about what it was like building this world?
So I think with this one, I definitely dug deeper in the European roots because I think a lot of my style has come from manga and anime, but in recent years I've started to then dig deeper into this other influence, and I think you mentioned Asterix, and as soon as you mentioned it, I realized, yes, this is a lot of where I took this from. The big noses, the woods, the people in the communities that are a bit odd, and I think the old man actually might come from a lot of that, the art style, the old man at the beginning. And also from when you're in school in Italy, all children get shown this animated film about Peter and the Wolf. And I don't know if this is something that you guys also get. And I think there's a lot of that coming through as well. So like, and because the fairy tales often are so grounded in the Northern European tradition, I thought that using a style that was from that tradition as well would help make everything come together all together in the same way. I guess in graphic design you would say it all serves the same concept, or it's all branded the same way, but also making it my own, because I guess in my work I focus a lot on characters, interactions and characters' expressions, which that I think that maybe is a bit Ghibli, like Studio Ghibli, with the little pointers that go when they're scared. There you go. So, and really express it, because it's a short story, but I wanted people to be in love with the characters by showing how they react to things, and they're in this deep, dark place, but they're alight with life. I guess that is the thing, but you say the art is so strong, but the art wouldn't be there if the story had then also made me alive with oh my god, this really has to happen. I really want to show this story to the world.
It's wonderful. And we're touching on the collaborative process here. Yours is a bit different in that you generally can't fire your particular partner. So I want to delve into how you actually construct the comic. How do you find the best way to bring these ideas to life?
So
How do we do it?
So I think generally one of us will come up with like the core idea for a comic.
So we have a vault. Every once in a while we're maybe having dinner and it's like a comic about that.
And so I've got a Word document somewhere with a bunch of stuff that maybe one day we'll do something with, but for now it's just kind of sitting in the back burner. But yeah, and then if we like it, if we both are interested in it enough to actually kind of go forward with that, I'll usually kind of start writing up the kind of the rough concept stuff. We'll talk through what we want from it and see where.
There's a lot of we go on walks and talk about things, and it's not just me talking, which is surprising. And that's why a lot how we work things through, like things we come up. So it can be this can be a bit nebulous at this point, because we don't have necessarily and then I do this and then you do that. It comes up. It's organic at this point in the process.
Yeah, but like I think at the point that we have at least a rough story, I'll start writing some stuff. I'll file the first draft off to Fran. She'll normally do some kind of sketches and stuff of the characters, and then I'll realize the characters are much more interesting than I thought they were. Like usually, it's not until we get a drawing of them that I actually get a sense of more of a sense of their character. I think that kind of seeing Fran interpret what I've written can give them a lot more sense of depth than they did from my initial ideas. And then from then we'll kind of refine stuff from there. Maybe there'll be some minor changes that'll need to be made because, and then kind of just keep going a bit back and forth on there until we have a finished thing that we're both happy with.
Yeah, we do a lot of discussion at the thumbnail stage. So when Thom does the script, then we maybe sit out an afternoon and do the thumbnails together, so that thumbnail feeds on the script almost as much as the script feeds into the thumbnail, because we'll work things out where the dramatic pauses are, where a character goes or where a character goes somewhere else, and changing the dialogue based on the art as well. So that's why I think that's probably why I guess you were asking about how it is to work with the romantic partner, is that they're always here and you can go like poke them and be like, think this now.
Well, I think if I remember rightly, and it's a little fuzzy at this point, but I seem to remember when the first version of the script, both the boy and the girl were equally snippy back and forth to each other, and then after just I can't remember if it was after the initial sketch or after a discussion with Fran, the brother ended up being much more kind of afraid and less confrontational than the girl was.
Wonderful. Because the character dynamics, what I've been seeing more and more with my own writing is one-dimensional characters, or like even when you try to build big nuanced characters, you still need to be able to give them enough to play off of each other. You don't want just two smart Alex just sniping at each other.
As accurate as it is to our relationship, yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, but we have other differences. Like, I think it's because we are both attracted to characters that are sarcastic and the similar type of energy. But yeah, it is, if they're all like that, then there's no highs and lows, there's no drama, there's no there's no communication in the same way. I don't know.
Yeah.
So even when you have a romantic couple working together, even when everything seems a little bit perfect, in this time with coronavirus going on, there's still some challenges going on. Could you talk about how this time has changed the not just collaborative but personal process of creating art and some strategies you developed?
Well, I think we've both been very fortunate during this time, actually, that we've both been kept employed throughout the whole period. While we've been working from home, it turns out we're actually pretty well suited for it.
We did fight a bit at the beginning.
Yeah.
There was a transition period.
True.
There was a transition period. And also, but yeah, it was quite good to have Thom. I've been going through like some difficult client relationships during the coronavirus. Which, you know, it's still really good that I had a lot of clients coming through, but it was really lucky to have Thom working from home, that I could get out of the studio and go like, no, they said this, oh no. And having somebody to talk to has actually been really good. And also somebody that also was working has been really good, rather than just them being sitting around the house, which, you know, I can understand a lot of people have to do, and it's I think it would have
definitely put it would have been
more of a strain.
Yeah, if I'm just sitting around, you know, playing video games all day whilst Fran was actually working, that could definitely put frustrations on there.
Yeah, but, and I guess you could have, and there's also, you know, there's so many levels that people could have problems, but we were very lucky. I don't even want to I don't want to comment on potential futures that didn't happen, because I think we weren't in it.
I think we've always been good at communication between ourselves, which I think helps as well, because, as I said, there were some early teething issues, but we're usually able to kind of talk things through and figure out where the problem's lying and come to some kind of solution that, even if we both don't love it, we can both live with it.
Yeah. It's usually me trying to put more rules on, so we go back on the rule stuff. That's actually really interesting that this is, because, you know, I think it was just like, how do we sanitize the groceries when they come home? How long are we going to wash our hands for? How many times we change our clothes if we go out? So it was basically, that was quite an interesting moment, that those teething issues, because we were reorganizing our lives based on another set of rules that we hadn't had to think about before. And the whole new normal is just like a new set of rules of engagement with the world. I think now we're pretty settled on. So that was the...
But yeah, also, it didn't help that actually, coming back to the subject of our comic, that all of those rules were like untested, and no one was quite sure how much they will, you know, like whether this whether doing this is as an absolute necessity, or whether this is going, is over, being overly cautious, or whether it's not enough. Like, there wasn't enough evidence and kind of experience to figure this out, which, that's sort of going to cause an issue with trying to kind of rationally work out what the best thing to do is.
Yeah, and the other thing that was a big thing was because Italy went into lockdown much earlier, and I've been keeping track with what's happening out there. I almost felt like I was seeing the future for a bit, and I was like, Italy, they're doing this. We must start doing this now.
Italy was about 3 weeks ahead of the UK, pretty much consistently through the summer.
So I think I kept on trying to see what people have been doing there and move it here, but the situation here was different. So negotiating all the stuff was difficult as well. And Fran, we talked about this yesterday and you didn't say this new rule. Why are you keeping up with this extra 5 things today? Because they maybe came up with the radio or other people were telling me, why are you not doing this? So yeah, there's a lot of pressures and stresses coming up there.
So it seemed a lot more like it wasn't how it affected you as a creator, but it affected both of you as people, which down into.
Yeah, I must say, as a creator, the problem I'm finding right now, I think the prolonged status of changing your relationship with the world is affecting me a bit more stronger right now. Like, I feel much less motivated going on with other projects, but hopefully it will be just between the changing the season and the new alerts, maybe that's just what's happening.
Excellent. Not excellent, just answer. So we are now approaching what I call the QVC portion of this interview. For those of you who are more with Francesca and Thom's side of the Atlantic, that is Home Shopping Network. Because we are in fact talking about their contribution to the anthology, which is on Kickstarter right now. And we are trying to raise $5,000. I am not going to try and translate that into pounds.
1,700 and something, I think. If it helps, it translated automatically on the Kickstarter. We're not just excellent at converting off the top of our heads.
Thank you, Kickstarter.
I was like, if you guys are that much better at that.
No.
I went into like the creative arts because I'm not good at math.
So we are. You can get Thom and Francesca's comic into Do Not Go Into the Dark Woods. It is a part of the Great Commandment Comics Anthology, which you can get. You can also get a deluxe version, which will have an additional art piece from Francesca going, delving even deeper into the dark.
There's something to show, like, here you go.
And as we progress further in this campaign, we are going to be unlocking some more rewards, including maybe some sci-fi work from Thom and Francesca for people to enjoy. You should definitely be checking that out. And we have other anthologies. We have canvas prints going on. We have plenty of amazing digital rewards that you definitely want to check out. Do we have anything else that you guys want to add about the creative process, about everything else?
I think I just want to stress about the moral of the story, because when I showed it to my mom, I think she was getting the idea of, it means the rule was wrong all along or whatever. But I think I think I'd like to stress that that's not the case. It's the nuance that is the point. If possible, and then I guess everybody will just take whatever they want from the story because that's of the author and all of that.
It's true. I'm reasonably happy for anyone to read the story and take what they take from it, and hopefully they'll do that before they come along and hear what I actually intended. But
even though this anthology is entirely about interpretation, we have the creators right here. We should definitely take the opportunity to go, hey, let's talk about that. That is...
Oh yeah, I definitely. Oh yes, like I'm very happy to say what I intended by it. But if someone goes, "Oh, well, I think that was I got something completely different," so yeah, good for you. Like,
good for you.
Yeah, and that sounded more sarcastic than I meant to.
Good for you.
I'm sorry, it's the accent.
Do you? You do you. I do you. I do.
No, people. Yeah, if you get a different interpretation than that, then good. But yeah, I definitely meant it to be about the rules are, like rules change and are subjective and need to be reassessed.
Yeah, because I think that's another thing that's maybe you can see a lot going through at the moment is changing your mind needs to be normalized. So changing rules also needs to be normalized. So if you've been going along all your life thinking I'm stupid, and you change your mind, actually no, I'm not stupid, that's fine, kind of thing. It's in the silliest example possible. Or if you think that tomatoes are terrible and then you realize actually tomatoes are the best fruit, which because tomatoes are fruit, isn't it?
They are fruit, but also terrible.
No, they're awesome. Okay, Thom doesn't eat anything. There is a problem, okay?
Yeah. I think
this is the great part about interpretation and do not go into the dark woods is it very much is the past isn't in and of itself inherently bad. It's maybe if you allow yourselves to be shackled to it, that becomes a lot more of a problem.
I mean, yeah, I'm educated. My degree's in history and classics, so I'm definitely a big fan of the past and learning about it and all of that. But it isn't the be all and end all. Like, we shouldn't just take that as well. That's the way it was, so it should always be.
Absolutely. So, what else are you folks working on? New projects, new ideas?
So, I think there's two things that we've got.
Two? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so the big thing that we've been working on that we would like to eventually come out into the world is we've been working on a comic. We've been working on a magical girl inspired comic, and yes, I'm running away from the camera because it's scary. We're working on a magical girl comic with the idea that 15 years after that they did the whole Sailor Moon thing where they saved the world as kids, then they have to come back together and confront the issues that have led their friendships to separate over the course of time.
So I guess that's quite. It does match up in a way with Dark Woods because it's taking material that is well known in media and culture and kind of putting a different spin on it.
Looking at what happens next, like reevaluating the way that you look at the stuff.
There's a lot about past and reevaluating how the past was and interpretation of the past because there's classic 5 team and each and every one of them has a different interpretation and memory and feeling about what happened to them in the past. And them coming together means that these different interpretations of the same events will have to reconcile and reassess and see. Oh, that's why you're so angry because you saw things like that, but I didn't mean it or I didn't see it. So that's something. I guess some themes that come across for all the work we want to do.
Yeah, I think ultimately that's what it's something that we're particularly interested in is the taking established themes from fiction and looking at what happens next. How can we do something a bit different and interesting with it?
Excellent. Well, I'm hoping that these will come out sooner rather than later.
It depends how fast I can work. That's the slouch moment. Ooh.
So I think this is a wonderful stopping point. So the book is called The Great Commandment. It is on Kickstarter right now. The creators are Francesca Romano and Thom Pouncey. You should totally be following Francesca's work here.
And on Instagram.
And on Instagram.
All links are in the website. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you all so much for watching. I will be seeing you tomorrow with artist Nicholas Torres and New York Times bestselling author Jody Lynn Nye, where they will be talking about their sci-fi work on the bubble. Thank you guys so much for coming on and talking about Do Not Go Into the Dark Woods. I hope to be talking to you guys again very soon.
Thank you for having us.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you. And to you watching, have a wonderful, blessed rest of your weekend. Thank you. Good afternoon from here and good evening across the pond. Take care, everyone.